What's good, G Life? This right here is Killer California. You already know California is home to its beautiful weather, sandy beaches, and the Hollywood nightlife. But it is also gangbanging capital full of all kinds of different barrios, gangs, from blacks, Hispanics, North, South, Asians, and everything else in between, white, and everything. You got it all. And this right here is the city of Maywood, that's located on the south side of Los Angeles. For those who are wondering, the south side of Los Angeles is, based off of, several cities, the city of Bell, Huntington Park, Southgate, Bell Gardens, and all the surrounding areas, Cudahy and everything else, right? So that is where the city is located, right? It's really close to, Compton as well, South Central. All of that is considered the south side, right? So I've been getting asked, for a new video on the South Side, right, with this new format of video. So with no further ado, let's get into it.
You are now watching M.O.D Entertainment. Make sure you like and subscribe.
You already know. I hold it down for the hood and the G line. Straight out the gutter where the vatos know for walk by. You see the bottles on the wall, you see them gang signs. Shit's no joke in the streets, you better act right. I hold it down for the hood and the G life. Straight out the gutter where the vatos know for walk bys. You see the bottle on the wall, you see them gang signs. Shit's no joke in the streets, you better act right. Now we'll be starting off by covering one of the original neighborhoods out of this area. This is its birthplace. It's not a barrio that came from a different area like some other neighborhoods, tend to establish. This is originally their birthplace, right? So it is the neighborhood that is attached to the actual city of Maywood, right? Which is known as the Vario MWLS. MWLS translating to Vario Maywood Locos. Vario Maywood Locos is a neighborhood that was established right here roughly around the mid-'80s when this neighborhood was established. Now, this neighborhood originally started off as, the Maywood Boys, right? But then they changed the name from Maywood Boys to the Maywood Locos, right? But originally they were known as the, MBZ, right? But then now it's MWLS. And their neighborhood is essentially everything that is across what's Fruitland Avenue all the way to Downey Road. From Downey Road, their territory still extends all the way to Slauson Avenue. From Slauson Avenue all the way to Gifford and back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio, which is a massive amount of territory, when you look at the overall, size of the area. But like I said, this neighborhood is the original ones from right here. So they were large and in charge, right? With roughly more than 150 members to this barrio, right? Stemming with other, smaller sub-cliques, right? You have the Chicos, you have the Jokers, the Night Owls, the Winos. So, they have clicas to their barrio, right? And you could find them, throughout this, throughout the 50s. So what's, 58, 57, 56, 54, 53, and obviously 60th Street where the Night Owls be, you know what I mean? 60th Street is one of the ones that you see attached to the graffiti a lot, So like I said, it's pretty, massive amount of territory, spread out throughout the 50s. Everett, Loma Vista Avenue as well, Carmelita, all of that is what's considered the Vario Maywood Locos. And like I said, these guys were the originators out of this area, the original gang from this city, right? Even though you have different barrios that are established in the area of Maywood, a lot of those neighborhoods tend to come from other cities or from the surrounding cities, right? But these guys were originators out of the Maywood area, and are still established. Despite what individuals want to say. I hear people always throwing comments, but like I said, I know these areas. I know these individuals from these barrios. I see the activity. Like, so people can't tell me that all neighborhoods died out or they ain't around or this and that. Because the haters are gonna want to hate. You know what I mean? But like I said, I never come here to hate or nothing like that. I could only call the facts and call them from what they are. You know what I mean? From the information given to me by homies from those neighborhoods. So you're not gonna tell me. You know what I mean? What I physically see. But yeah, they are still established and still continue to hold theirs down for the area of Maywood and the Maywood Locos right there. Now, to nobody's surprise, another neighborhood that we have in the area of Maywood that is originators out of the Maywood area, right? Some could even say that they were actually established before the actual Vario Maywood, right? Because this gang is older than them, but they are not originally from this area, right? Which is known as the Vario Southside 18th Street. Now, Southside 18th Street is the Southside portion of 18th Street was established in the city of Cudahy, right? But it's spread out to the surrounding cities, right? Like the city of Bell Gardens, the city of Bell, the city of Huntington Park, and etc. Right? Being as large as it is, right? It just spreads out to different locations. Maywood being no different, right? So the 18th Streeters do have an establishment and a presence in the city of Maywood, right? Now, where they're located at, right, in the city of Maywood, right, where you were able to find, them doing their thing, is where the Maywood Park's at. So all the surrounding areas around the Maywood Park, what's 58th, what's Hella Troop, 52nd, all of that was where you were able to find the 18th Street neighborhood. But not just only here, because there was a very well-known tag banging crew that was known as KWS, who broke off into two separate gangs, right? Like, half of the members chose to become a clique from 18th Street, and the other half chose to keep it as a barrio. So the neighborhood split into two different neighborhoods, but they kept the same name. I know it kind of gets confusing, right? And that portion of the 18th Street branch is also located here in Maywood, but in a different part, right? But nonetheless, still right there. That's why I said that 18th Street, you can find them throughout the city of Maywood, because they have, little patches of homies that claim territory throughout the city, right? And like I said, they're older than the Maywood Locos, obviously, because the 18th Street gang is older, roughly around the early 70s when they were established, so roughly about 15 years before Maywood actually started. So you get what I'm saying? And believe it or not, a lot of those guys are related, even though they have beef too, as, ironic as that is. But yeah, like I said, they hold a presence right here also in the Maywood area. Now, another barrio that you have right here in the city of Maywood is known as the Vario KWS, like I had already mentioned, with the 18th Street one. KWS was originally a tag banging crew, a well-known tag banging crew, a very large tag banging crew that was roughly around the later 80s, early 90s. So we're talking about an old school crew, you know what I mean? A crew that was well known throughout, LA County, right? They had members spread out in different locations. They were known for their graph, bombing on freeways. So they had talented artists, right? Because that's what they originated as, taggers, right? But like I said, with the violence, increasing and, neighborhoods, being out there, and now, these individuals having to defend themselves because, these individuals are trying to take advantage of them, right? So, they have no choice but to fight back, right? The tagging went from tagging to tag banging, and the tag banging went to gang banging, right? Like I said, because it was a large crew, from what I was told, is that it was roughly around about 70 members for a crew that is very large, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of their members, originated out of the south side right here in the area of Maywood, right? But they had homies spread out in different locations, not just right here, right? So then, like I had mentioned before, what ended up happening was that this neighborhood ended up splitting into two, right? You had some of them that were cool with the 18th Street gang, right? And, wanted to be a part of their neighborhood, but, the other half wanted to still keep their crew around, right? So, half of those members ended up becoming, 18th Streeters and keeping it as a clica, KWS. And the other KWS decided to keep it as their own barrio, right? Barrio, Crazy Wicked Sureños. And I think the 18th Street clique ends up standing for Crazy Ways, right? And the two ended up having beef with each other, right? Because, these guys didn't like the fact that they were still using the name, and, and that created the tensions and beef, right? But like I said, KWS, still ended up recruiting and gaining the numbers back either way, right? So, they created tensions and beefs, right? And the KWS, the Tagger ones, you could find them throughout, the Maywood back streets, right, as their clique that they represent for theirs. You can find them throughout King as well. But like I said, they're just spread out in different locations. They have patches, right? And they're still active. They're still up. You still see the activities. Don't ever get it twisted. As a matter of fact, this crew is the same one that made the Fox 11 News special. For those who remember that special, this is the same KWS, Kings with Style, as it stood for before. People thought it was a black neighborhood, but like I said, they have black members too. They're barrio, but they're homeboys, right? They're Sureños, Crazy Wicked Sureños. But yeah, they're still right there representing for theirs and holding it down for the KWS. Another one of the original neighborhoods out of the Maywood area is a barrio that is not originally from the area of Maywood, but established themselves, planted their flags, just like the 18th Streeters, right? They also, are rooted into the city's overall history now, right? Which is known as the Vario KST. KST is translating to Vario Kansas Street. Kansas Street is already an old school barrio, dating back to the 70s, originally out of the area of Southgate, is where you're able to find the street Kansas, right? Because I often see people say, "Oh, these fools are tripping. There's not even no Kansas right here in Maywood and with the woo," because they're not they come from the city of Southgate. You know what I mean? But Kansas Street grew into a large neighborhood awfully fast, right? Because they have more than 300 members to them, So, they grew like wildfire, And so they spread out to the surrounding cities, like around the area, because like I said, these cities are small and congested, right? So, you're going to have, these barrios, traveling and drifting off to the surrounding cities, right? Like what's Maywood, Bell, Cudahy, Southgate, Linwood, Bell Gardens. These are cities that are just like, you could biking distance. You know what I mean? 10 minutes on a bike, you get there. So, they're really close to each other, right? So that's why you have them, homies that move and, located and they go to school and they live in different cities. So the barrios tend to spread out to the surrounding areas, right? So Maywood be no different, right? Where you were able to find the Kansas Streeters, or are able to find the Kansas Streeters, right? And their territory is everything that's from Slauson Avenue, their turf heads all the way to Atlantic. Their territory still extends to Randolph. And from Randolph, their territory heads out all the way to Helletroop and back around. Everything in the middle of that is considered their barrio throughout Vineville, Mayflower, Prospect, King Avenue, 60th Street, all of the 59th Place, all of that is what's considered their barrio, right? But obviously their main domain, their dojo, is on Prospect and 61st Street, right? Prospect, as a matter of fact, being the clica from the Maywood section, right? Because, like I said, Kansas Street has several clicas to their barrios, Talkers and all kinds of different clicas. They got like 8 cliques or something like that, right? But Prospect being the one that's from here, from the city of Maywood, right? The Prospect boys. And yes, they still are established and in the surrounding areas, holding it down for theirs and the Kansas Streeters. Now, another neighborhood that you have in this area that is not originally from this area and also used to be a tag banging crew that became a neighborhood is known as the Vario FIU Locos. Now, FIU Locos was originally a tag banging crew that came from the East LA area, the east side, and had members that moved to this area. And, when they were just taggers, right, tag bangers doing their thing. And then, tagging turns to tag banging, and then tag banging turns to gang banging. You know what I'm saying? And they were also a crew that was large in numbers, that had a presence and did their thing. I would see, since I first landed, to the south side portion of Los Angeles, since I moved out here, I had always seen the activity by these individuals and all of that, right? So people can't say that these guys weren't active or doing stuff, because like I said, you would hear stuff, you would see stuff. I mean, come on now, homie. Yeah, I could only call it for how it is, you know? I'm not just saying that because I know individuals from this neighborhood, you know, the homies, but because, I mean, facts are facts, bro. You know what I'm saying? Now, FIU Locos, you know, stood for, you know, several things. You know, Furious Locos, you know, fucking it up is, you know, one of the well-known ones of there. The Fishburne Locos, obviously Fishburne being the street, right, in which is their, you know, their stronghold right there, right? Essentially, their territory was everything that was from Gifford to Slauson. From Slauson, their territory still extended to Atlantic, and Atlantic all the way to 52nd, back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio, but obviously their stronghold being on Fishburne. So it was like Fishburne, 57, 56, 54, 53. That's why you see it, because they have clicas to their barrio. That's why you see, you know, it to their neighborhood as well, right? And like I said, you know, this was roughly a crew that had more than 50 members to them, right? So, I mean, you know, they had heads doing their thing, homie. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, they weren't just located here, but also, you know, coming from the east side. So, like, people are going to want to just hate just because, you know, they used to be taggers or whatever. But like I said, that doesn't mean shit. There's a lot of neighborhoods that used to be tag bang crews that are now neighborhoods. People give credit to those fighters, but they're going to want to hate on this one for the same thing. I mean, it completely makes no sense, bro. You know what I mean? I'm not here to defend them or nothing like that, but like I said, hey, facts are facts, homie. You know what I mean? I mean, there's no excuses when people try to make excuses. I never understood that, homie. Just call it for what it is, dog. I mean, I could understand you don't like them, but I mean, to hate on a neighborhood, you know. But yeah, the FIU Locos right there, still representing, holding it down, and shout out to the homie that still be holding it down right there. You know, the homie Fader, and you know. Now, another barrio that you have right here in Maywood, this being right here located in the free-for-all zone. This is a part of Maywood in which a bunch of different barrios from different areas all seem to have landed and planted their flag and called it their home. You know what I mean? So you have several different gangs, all, you know, within the same area, and one of them being the Vario TLS translating to Vario the Lot Stoners, Southside the Lot Stoners. Now, the Lot obviously being an older gang that has been around. It originally is from the East LA portion of Los Angeles, but has had homies that have came down here and recruited a crew that was around the area called TIK, and it becoming a clique of their neighborhood. That's the reason why they were able to grow in numbers awfully fast. And this part of their clica is still active and still up. I should know. I pass this area every single day coming to work. You know what I mean? And I could see the activities and the graffiti, so people can't tell me, you know, what I'm saying is a lie. And plus, I know individuals from this barrio. They're still active, still functioning, and still representing right there in the area. That's what's everything that's from Slauson. From Slauson all the way to Maywood Avenue. Maywood Avenue, the territory extends all the way to what's Randolph, and Randolph to Loma Vista, back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio. Now, this part of their clica is not that large, roughly only being about 15 members, but nonetheless, still hold it down for their barrio. Another barrio that accompanies this area, but is not from this area, is the barrio Southside 29th Street. Southside 29th Street, obviously, originally from South Central, from the east side of South Central, is where you're able to find the original, you know, hometown. But they have had homies that have, you know, traveled and planted their flags in different areas, you know, from Huntington Park to Bell to Maywood. You know what I mean? So they have members, you know, spread out to different locations and established themselves. So Maywood be no different. And also located here in the same exact free-for-all zone. Everything that's from Slauson to Maywood, Randolph, and Loma Vista, and back around, you know, it's what's considered their barrio. But they tend to be more where it's Slauson, Maywood to 60th Street to Loma Vista, and back around. You know, throughout, you know, what 1659 place is what's considered their barrio right there. Not being that large, but like I said, in a whole, their barrio is, you know, larger. Right here only being roughly about 12 to 14 members, but still hold it down right there for their barrio and for the 29th Street. Another barrio that's in the area but is not from originally, you know, from this area is the barrio JBI. JBI obviously used to be a tag banging crew that became a neighborhood, you know, standing for several different stuff, you know, just blaze it, blasting individuals, juveniles, jack boys. You know, they still make their, you know, neighborhood stand for all, you know, all those things. So, you know, all of those are correct. This is also the barrio in which the rapper Bullet, this is the barrio in which he's from. You know what I mean? And yes, they are also located right here in the free-for-all zone, you know, where 59 Place is at, and Maywood Avenue and all that. is where you're able to find the JBIs, right? And like I said, there used to be a crew. They had members scattered through all over the place. Bell Gardens, Southgate, Maywood. So as a whole, they're a lot more larger. So you do have them right here, roaming around and doing their thing. So you do see the activity from the JBIs as well right here, located in Maywood. Now, when it comes to the free-for-all zone, originally this is the home territory and the barrio of the Vario VXLS. VXLS translating to Vario Locos Huntington Park. I know it's Huntington Park, but technically the area is Maywood. It's one of those things where geographically, just that one street is considered Huntington Park for some odd, strange reason. Because honestly, Huntington Park doesn't start until you cross the train tracks, but hey, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where the city's designed weird. But technically, anybody that comes here obviously understands that this is Maywood. You know what I mean? So they claim Huntington Park because geographically that is what it's labeled, but it's literally slapped right here in Maywood. And I have a lot of homies from this barrio, so I know they do their thing, and I know they got down individuals that hold it down for their barrio, for that VXLS. Not to be confused with Huntington Park Locos. This is Vario Locos Huntington Park, two different things. And their barrio is everything that's from Slauson to Maywood Avenue, to Randolph, to Loma Vista, back around. But the heart of their hood, their main domain is on 59th Place. That is their dojo, their domain. That is where they do their thing. Now, it has always roughly been a smaller barrio, you know what I mean? No more than 80 members, but nonetheless, real individuals that do their thing and still hold it down and put it down for that Vario Locos. Don't ever get it twisted, you know what I mean? Shout out to the homie Flaco, shout out to Güero, shout out to Puppet, shout out to all the homies, Darky, can't forget Darky. Shout out to all the homies that hold it down for that VXLS. Now, another neighborhood that's established right here in the area of Maywood, but is not originally from here, right? They're more of a smaller branch, is the Vario CAM. CAM standing for Vario CAM, crazy-ass Mexicans. A well-known neighborhood out of the Boyle Heights area that used to also be a tagging crew that transitioned into Vario. But they originate out of the east side. The Boyle Heights, area is their home. But they have had members who have moved out to areas like Maywood, Bell Gardens, and areas like that, and establish their neighborhood, right? The South Side CAM, and then you have the East Side CAM, but it's the same body, right? Now, they ended up getting large in numbers awfully quick is because there was a well-known tag banging crew that was roughly around this area, known as DSW, that ended up becoming a clique off of the CAM neighborhood, and that's why the numbers grew so fast, so quick, right, around this area. And essentially, you could find the CAM neighborhood spread out throughout what's Alamo and Randolph, so the back streets of that area, Woodlawn, Palm, all of that is the CAM's neighborhood, right? And they're not as large as their original home territory in the east side, right? But the east side is not even that far from the south side, so they could just back up each other. So, I mean, essentially, as a whole, it's a lot more larger, right? The CAM neighborhood would be more than 100 members to them, right? But right here, at least in this area, they're roughly around 12 to 15 members. So not that large, but like I said, still hold it down. Don't ever get it twisted. Like I have always said, it only takes one or two individuals, you know what I mean? So 12 is more than enough. But like I said, as a whole, they're more larger, right? With their, home base only being like about, 15-minute drive. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, yes, they still hold the presence right here and hold it down for their south side portion of their barrio.